All right, folks, it is time for our next video. You know, whenever we do, whenever I do astrology videos, one of my struggles always is to resist the urge to bring you up to speed with where we are at currently. Especially because, as you know, the chart is constantly moving and we're always in the middle of a story. There are transits that have been occurring before and there are transits to come. And so when you are creating a standalone video, you're always feeling a little bit compelled to, it's like a mini series where you want to do a quick snapshot of things that have just happened. And I might just do that, but I feel like the Capricorn transit side of things has been pretty well covered since the videos I've done since the new moon in Capricorn. Even prior to that, but if you want to get caught up, and I'm not suggesting you spend hours watching astrology videos, if you are new to my channel, new to my videos, you know that is something I encourage you to be cautious about, and I encourage everyone to be in action more than in a space of projecting or dreaming, because the transits and the aspects are trying to meet you where you're at and trying to support what it is that you're doing. But at the same time, I recognize that I'm picking this up in the middle of something. So if I were to give a broader advice, it would be to take a look at the videos since the new moon in Capricorn. We're still in the new moon in Capricorn cycle. The new moon in Aquarius, the next new moon, occurs on, for me, Friday, February the 9th. This coming Friday, February the 9th. So we're still in that particular phase. The last video I did especially should have outlined to you that even though by February the 16th or so, February the 16th, the last of the personal planets, and by that I mean the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, will have moved out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. The Capricorn part of your chart, and by that I mean the house occupied by the sign of Capricorn and what that stands for and who that stands for, will remain active because the Mercury cycle, current Mercury cycle we're in, is going to remain active through April. And then we have 2 full moons in Capricorn in June and July. And then in the second half of the year, Pluto comes back into Capricorn to finish off its long-standing transit since 2008. But this video is about the next sign in the zodiac and the fact that the Sun and Pluto have already moved into Aquarius, and in a couple of days' time, Mercury will be joining them there. And then in the middle of February, then on February the 9th, we have the new moon in Aquarius. And in the middle of February, we're going to have Mars and Venus enter Aquarius within a few days of each other, and importantly, conjunct in Aquarius on February the 22nd. So the sign of Aquarius, as we move forward over the next few weeks, is going to gain greater and greater prominence as a place, as a location in our chart that is going to require action to aid longer-term transits that are occurring. And it's best for us to try and get in front of that. Some people may argue with the idea that this video should have been done when the Sun was entering Aquarius. I still will maintain at around that time. And if you look at my Sun Pluto entering Aquarius video that I did, I made, I think, a successful argument at the time to say, while the Sun entering into Aquarius is going to make us more and more conscious of what needs to be done in the sign of Aquarius, the actions and activities still were very much focused on the Capricorn part of the chart, and indeed continue to be so. The last of the major aspects of the planets transiting Capricorn is on February the 7th. Venus is going to trine, Venus from Capricorn will trine Uranus in Taurus. So Venus in Capricorn bringing a certain amount of healing, but more importantly, financial and relationship opportunities in the sign of Capricorn, with all the energy and effort we should have been pouring into the sign of Capricorn, is going to try and help and aid us becoming more authentic and more individual in the Taurus part of our chart. I think from a catch-up perspective, that's about all I want to say. And there are videos available. You can go back to the New Moon and Capricorn video around January the 10th onwards, that if you want to get a sense of energies related to the Capricorn part of the chart, and briefly the Aquarius part of the chart, because I talked about the Sun and Pluto moving into Aquarius, you have all those resources available to you if you need to. So to continue the summary for a couple of seconds to set up the Aquarius transit video, we're still in the new moon. We're still in the month of Capricorn, where the word month is derived from a lunar cycle. The word month being derived from the word moon. Because we're still in the new moon cycle. New moon takes 28 days to complete its cycle, and we're going to have the next new moon on February the 9th. As we head to the new moon in Aquarius, the moon will go through Capricorn again before the new moon. So for instance, tomorrow for me on February the 4th, the sun will enter Sagittarius. After about 2.5 days, the moon is currently in Scorpio as I do this video. Tomorrow the moon enters Sagittarius on February the 4th for me for about 2.5 days. Then the moon is going to enter the sign of Capricorn, where it had its last new moon cycle. And when the moon is going through Capricorn, two things are important to pay attention to. One, themes associated with this entire Capricorn cycle could come up for completion, conclusion, revisiting. Now, we have to take completion and conclusion with a grain of salt, because the communication and transactional aspect of the Capricorn part of the chart will continue into April. Look at my last video that talks about the Mercury cycle in Capricorn. And then, of course, with the full moons in June and July, and Pluto coming back to Capricorn in the second half of the year. The sign of Capricorn is an important sort of energetic center. And by that, I mean the house occupied by the sign of Capricorn in your birth chart and what that house stands for this entire year. But the beginning of this year has been kind of a starting off point. The second thing that is going to happen as we head closer and closer to the new moon in Aquarius, but especially while the moon is in Capricorn and right before the new moon in Aquarius, is that our energy is going to get depleted. The moon is getting smaller, our emotional, our intuitive, we will feel fatigue, and there's going to be a call in our body for rest, for releasing the last lunar cycle, for closing out that last month. And then, of course, the new moon in Aquarius will happen on February the 9th, and the wind will start to get back into our sail, get behind our sails again. So have an awareness of that sort of where we are at energetically within the month. And also, it feels a little bit like a contradiction, because on the one hand I'm saying on the 7th, Venus is trining Uranus, and so you'll find the balance. The third quarter moon, I think, was yesterday or day before yesterday, and so we are in that last week of the lunar month where the moon is going to be. So would not surprise me at all if this next week that we're heading into, and prior to February the 9th, we are wrapping things. I don't know that it's necessarily the time to start a new initiative, but for initiatives and projects that are already rolling, whether they have to do with the Capricorn part of the chart or the Aquarius part of the chart, or frankly, if you don't know your chart, and even if it doesn't apply, just whatever you've been doing to get back on the proverbial horse and give 2024 a push and a start, especially since January 10th, but really productively after January the 25th. Whatever you've been doing in that arena, and whatever has occurred the week before and after January the 24th, as that kind of 2 months before the lunar eclipse in Libra on March the 24th. There's a video on that also that you can refer to if you want more details on that. We're now in wrapping up mode for the next 5, 6, 7 days before that February 9th. Finishing up what we've started since January 10th, 11th. That doesn't mean that no action is being taken, because finishing things up means getting out those final emails, getting it taken care of, blah, 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 whatever it is that needs to be done. And it's likely to be as part of those actions that this Venus trine Uranus can kind of have a taking off point from Capricorn to the Taurus part of our chart. But But now that all that has been said, now that I have mentioned to you that we should be in wrap-up mode, pay attention to when the moon comes into the sign of Capricorn and the Capricorn sort of themes come back up again, and we are increasingly more and more depleted, even depressed, even feeling a little bit hopeless and flat. Just pay attention to that feeling for about 48 hours prior to a new moon and try not to take it too seriously. Try to take it as a call to let go and to try and rest and not push so hard to complete during the course of this week. Okay. Now, let's talk about the activities and the actions in the sign of Aquarius. It's not unusual for us to have kind of a relay race, handoff point between energies of one sign and another sign. Indeed, we're lucky that the Aquarius season is so compact, because sometimes with the personal planets, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, when it's close to the Sun, you can have these planets in 3 or 4 signs. So you could have the tail end of Sagittarius season occurring while many planets are in Capricorn and the Sun is moving into Aquarius and the energies are distributed. Till February the 16th, we will continue to have Venus in, and even Mars. Mars is going to be in Capricorn till February the 13th. But increasingly, especially in a couple of days' time, actually tomorrow night, Mercury is going to move into Aquarius and the energies are going to start to, and it's not just we've been feeling, if you were to be, over the past 4 or 5 days, it wouldn't surprise me at all if you've been feeling Mercury entering Aquarius. It's not on the day of the transit. You know, a planet is a body, and as it is moving, and it has an orb, as it is moving into or towards something, you can feel the energy gather momentum prior to the planet making its entry, because you can feel its energetic sort of, I give it about 5 degrees or so to kind of start to feel the transition occurring. Now, the Sun was the first planet to enter the sign of Aquarius on January the 20th this year. Mars will be the last planet to leave the sign of Aquarius on March 22nd. So we probably have one of the most compact seasons of any that we've been experiencing lately. 2 months, January 20th to March 22nd, energies will be present, annual energies, if you like. Typically the Sun, a new moon, Mercury, and Venus. Sometimes, like this year, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, a new moon, and Mars, and sometimes maybe 2 new moons, you know, depending on the year and depending on what degree things are falling in. So it's about a 2-month period of activity. From the sign of Aquarius, you remember we've talked about this, from the sign of Capricorn, we had these transiting planets aspecting the North Node and Chiron in Aries, and Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. We've talked about this a lot. Previous videos you can take a look at. Now in the sign of Aquarius, all these planets that are going to be transiting, Sun, Venus, Mars, Mercury, and even the new moon, will be aspecting Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, and specifically they will be squaring them. This means that even though the sign of Aquarius is going to experience these aspects and transits in a pretty compact time frame, in a 2-month, over a 2-month time frame, and even though we're not gonna, it's not a pot that's gonna have a burner under it for much of the year the way the sign of Capricorn will, because of the Mercury cycle in Capricorn and 2 full moons and Pluto coming back into Capricorn. The sign of Aquarius and these transits have an unusual importance and a dependency, partly because of these squares to Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, and those 2 transits are important and expansive and should not be ignored, because they're giving a sense of where we might, where we're trying to inaugurate a new 12-13 year cycle and become more authentic. Where does Taurus sit in your chart? What house does it occupy? What does that house stand for? And I'll expand on that in a second. Also, we have a Venus-Mars conjunction in Aquarius on February the 22nd. And this conjunction was trying to happen in July of 2023, but could not, because as Venus approached Mars, and just before the conjunction could happen, she went retrograde. If you go back to the Venus retrograde in Leo in July of last year. So there's some energy that was gathering momentum through July that had to go through a period of development since then to only to reach some sort of culmination point on February the 22nd, when Venus and Mars can finally conjoin. Since that time period in July, I've told you numerous times that it's almost as if a carrot appeared in front of us, a carrot at the end of the stick. And we kept trying to move towards it, but there were obstacles and false starts and things kept falling through. Now, from this vantage point, you can look back since July and see how important those stops and starts and things not... The lack of... It's Venus and Mars conjuncting. The word we need to use is consummation. And that creative spark has not been... We have not been able to consummate it. Spirit has not been able to... There was a reason why there was a need for Venus to retrograde. What we value needed to be reassessed, revalued. And since then, we've been heading to this conjunction on February the 22nd. So whatever this thing was that, that started the middle to end of July, gathered momentum into August. Even we entered into September going, this is what I want, this is the direction I'm moving in, this is where I'm going, only with that Mercury retrograde in September to be like, oh, can't be, because I did not have the full picture on what on this step that I was doing. And since then, we just have not been able to get back to that point. But there's an opportunity and potential as we head towards February 22nd to start to, again, as I've mentioned to you, January 10th to about February 22nd is the most cleanly expansive, forward-looking seed planting, taking action to get 2024 onto some sort of a rollicking start kind of energy astrologically. And it's about getting things moving and started. I don't know to what extent it's about things showing up, because the things don't show up within a few days of us getting them started, depending on what you're trying to do. As you head into February and towards February 22nd, I'd be very curious about, I would expect that we would actually start to see momentum gathering on the seed planting that we've been doing and been trying to get back on the again, all these past videos since January the 10th new moon, you'll be able to see it's the same narrative. All the personal planets are direct. Increasingly, the outer planets have gone direct. Planets being direct is a phenomenon that takes us to about March 25th, 26th, 27th. April the 1st is when Mercury will go retrograde again. Till March 25th, all systems go forward. However, February 20th, when the Sun enters Pisces, and the planets get ready to start entering Pisces and conjunct Saturn in Pisces, the energy will become heavier and more responsible. It's almost like all the seed planting we're doing since January the 10th. And both in the signs of Capricorn and Aquarius that are necessary for any expansiveness that we've been trying to manifest since last July will need to be tempered as we head towards February 20th with managing the Pisces part of our chart responsibly and quickly, and giving it a certain amount of urgency so that those crises and things that we're managing don't spill over to thwart and to block whatever it is that we are trying to create. All the planets right now in 5 houses, 5 signs: Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus. Venus, Mars, Mercury right now in Capricorn. Sun, Pluto in Aquarius. Saturn, Neptune in Pisces. North Node, Chiron in Aries. Jupiter, Uranus in Taurus. 4 of these houses, Capricorn, Aquarius, Aries, Taurus, expansive, forward-looking, 2024, more than 2024. Where do you want to go? Where's the adventure? Where are you being called to go? The Pisces part of the chart, crisis since 2014, 15, 16, especially 2016. Saturn there going. We need to manage the energy leak in the Pisces part of the chart. We need to put some structure around this. We need to sort this out. We need to solve this. You need to take this seriously. Otherwise, all this expansiveness is going to is threatened by wherever Saturn is. We've energy is going to go, and energy, we have to take it seriously. And as the year moves on, as I've said, especially because we have an eclipse in Pisces in the second half of this year in September, Pisces is, like Capricorn, is going to be another part of our chart that's going to have this kind of burner underneath it. Aquarius will not, because these transits will be over in 2 months, but the transits in Aquarius are really critically important. When the planets transited through Capricorn, they squared Chiron and Aries, Chiron and North Node in Aries, and trined Uranus and Jupiter in Taurus. Trines have an ease to them. Squares have a requirement. A lot of astrologers think squares are more effective transits than trines. Trines get the good name. Trines are positive, harmonious, supportive, unqualified in their positiveness. The challenge or the problem with the trine is that unless you're taking action, trines can happen and go by and not necessarily show a result. When it's a square, and the planets in Aquarius, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Mars, the new moon, are going to square Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, the faster moving planets have got to take some action, characteristic of the nature of the planet, with the Sun, internal review and awareness, connection to spirit, connection to goals, with Mercury, communication, with Mars, action towards goals, and appropriate conflict, but also managing conflict and competition, with Venus, harmony, relationships, financial opportunities, sowing seeds, peace, abundance. Action needs to be taken related to these planets in the sign of Aquarius, because Jupiter and Uranus are dependent on this action to fulfill their fullest potential for you in the Taurus part of your chart. And with squares, because it's a bit of a face-off, because it's a little bit like these planets coming up against a stop sign in the US, that's a US-based reference, and the faster moving planets need to go first, and then the slow moving planets can go. That's my analogy for thinking about how this works. The pressure is exerted by the square for action to be taken in a way that it's more likely that the action will be taken. Whereas with a trine, which has been lovely to see it during January with sort of the planets in Capricorn trining Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus, a lot is dependent on, because the trines don't create tension, if we are not quite feeling up to the task to take action and to take advantage of them, they can happen and we may not reap the results quite as readily or quite as fruitfully. Whereas with the square, there's greater. So one of the reasons why this 2-month-long set of transiting personal planets through Aquarius carries a certain amount of weight and importance is that action in the Aquarius part of the chart needs to be taken to allow Jupiter to end a 12-13-year cycle in the sign of Taurus and to create an auspicious new beginning in the Taurus part of the chart. Sorry, I had an alarm set and the alarm went off and the recording stopped, so I'm going to have to edit these two things together. Annoying. Will allow taking action in the Aquarius part of our chart will allow Jupiter to create a new 12, 13-year cycle, an auspicious new beginning in the Taurus part of the chart. As I've said to you before, if you're on the right track in the Taurus part of the chart, it will seek to elevate and escalate, spiral you up. If you're on the wrong path, it will create an ending that may allow you to make a break for and start on the right path in the Taurus part of the chart. The choice will be yours. With Jupiter and Saturn, you have to meet the planets halfway and take action. And the squares to Uranus, your ability to move forward in the Taurus part of your chart in a way that is right, true, authentic to you is going to be dependent on the appropriate relevant actions being taken in the Aquarius part of the chart. In addition, all the planets that are going to be entering the Aquarius part of the chart will conjunct Pluto. Right up front, Pluto is in the very first degree of Aquarius right now. And while I will continue to maintain that 2023 is more important for wrapping up the Pluto and Capricorn transit than getting wound up about the Pluto and Aquarius transit, and I've done a video on Pluto entering, the Sun and Pluto entering Aquarius on January 20th or thereabouts, so you can go back and take a look at that if you want more details on this. The fact that Pluto has entered Aquarius with the Sun means that right now we are very aware of the fact that we are in the beginning of a 19-odd year transformation cycle in the sign of Aquarius, and that the timing of the entry of Pluto into Aquarius with the Sun, there's this quality of announcing what the agenda of the change is, and Pluto tries to work on our behalf. The Sun conjuncted Pluto in Capricorn before it marched into Aquarius hand in hand with Pluto. The first of the conjunctions with Pluto happens in 2 days' time on February the 5th. Mercury entering Aquarius tomorrow conjuncts Pluto. It would not surprise me if you are already in communication and transaction mode related to the sign of Aquarius, and that some of this communication has the potential, some of these mercurial activities have the potential to inaugurate transformation in the sign of Aquarius. Now, Pluto is going to be there for about 19 years, but we're talking about inaugurating a cycle. It's still kind of momentous. Mars will be the next planet to conjunct Pluto on February the 14th. That is a much feared conjunction with these two planets that have a reputation for being destructive. Mars, the male planet, the planet of testosterone and conflict and pursuit of goals, and the red planet in conjuncting Pluto. But I'll talk more about that when that is going to happen. Why not think about a conjunction as a meeting up of these two entities where they're having a conversation? Why not think about Mercury conjuncting Pluto as the planet that governs our mental, verbal, communication, transactional, technology-related side with Pluto that is creating this transformation? And with Mars, why not think about the planet that hunts and gathers and allows us to take action and pursue our goals, but also protects us from competition and enmity and engages us perhaps in appropriate boundary setting and conflict, as being in conversation with Pluto that is trying to create a conversation in the Aquarius part of the chart. It will be a more volatile, action-packed. Think of the destruction as perhaps being necessary. If someone is standing in the way of your positive transformation or resisting it, you may, as you head towards that February 14th Mars-Pluto conjunction, have to deal with it. The beautiful thing is, Venus follows on the heels of Mars, and on the 17th, Venus conjuncts Pluto. So you will have the ability, if you have to confront someone or something or take action, to harness both Mars and Venus's softer, more diplomatic. It may be that during that time, you have the ability to be iron fist, velvet glove. You might be able to keep the conflict if you have to draw lines or boundaries, politer than if Mars and Pluto were conjuncting without Venus's influence being present. The other transit that outside of squaring Jupiter and Uranus that these planets in Aquarius are going to make is that they're going to trine the south node in Libra. We are within the Libra eclipse cycle. We had the Libra solar eclipse in the middle of October. We have the corresponding Libra lunar eclipse on March 24th. We're meant to release something in the Libra part of the chart, the house occupied by Libra, and what that stands for, and lean into the Aries part of the chart where the north node is. And actions and activities related to the Aquarius part of the chart are going to allow harmoniously to make this transition. I don't know that I want to give you a list of dates for when all these transits are going to happen, because you can research them. You can just go online and say, Sun square Jupiter, when is it happening? Now, January, the Sun is already squared. Let me just put it this way. The Sun's transits, which are present right now, are much more about the sequence of the planets entering has been really helpful right now. The Sun has entered first on January 20th. When the Sun enters a part of the chart, as I've said, it spotlights the entire part of the chart, and it's an internal assessment. What do I want? What needs to be fixed? What needs to be done? The fact that Mercury is only entering on February 5th is lovely, because it means that over the past few days is when communications related to what you want may have escalated. The fact that as that is happening, by the way, the Sun is going to trine the south node on February the 7th. The Sun will square Uranus on February the 8th. I am giving you these dates because it kind of looks ahead over the next week or so. And on February the 9th, we have the new moon. The new moon in Aquarius is significant because it happens after the Sun and the moon square Uranus. The Sun will have made all of its important transits through the sign of Aquarius, will have done its full assessment of what it wants out of the part of your chart where Aquarius sits. And then on February the 9th, the Sun and the moon will come together and create the new moon. Whatever Mercury-related seeds are being planted, Mercury is going to continue to be in Aquarius till February the 23rd. So it's not like you're not going to be in communication mode. Plus, Mars will be there by that time, and Venus will be there. So you might find that you are wrapping things up this week with greater and greater awareness and mounting intensity building in the Aquarius part of your chart, and the new moon happens on Friday. And from there, the possibility of greater action, because a week after the new moon, Mars and Venus will be in Aquarius. On the 22nd, they will conjunct. They will conjunct just before, 2 or 3 days before the full moon in Virgo. Now, one thing I want to mention, the full moon that we had in Leo on the 25th of January, and what it brought up is related to this new moon in Aquarius that's going to be happening in February the 9th. They are related. Leo is the opposite sign of Aquarius. And right now, the full moons are occurring before the new moon. So full moon occurs in the sign of Leo and brings something up. That full moon was square Jupiter in Taurus, bringing an awareness to what needs to be done, what needed to be done in the Aquarius part of the chart to help Jupiter create its new beginning in the Taurus part of the chart. Do you see the connection to all these Aquarius transits? Full moon, January 25th in Leo, squaring Jupiter, bringing awareness and a kind of an internal and intuitive awareness of what needs to be in place in the Aquarius part of the chart. And action from there has been gathering momentum, particularly from a communication perspective, as we enter this week and as Mercury gets ready to conjunct Pluto on the 5th. I did give you the Pluto conjunction dates because they're important, but we'll come back to them. I've told you that Venus and Mars will conjunct on the 22nd. And so that's something, if you want to think of the 22nd, as I've said, forward moving seed planting 2024 till February 20th, go. Till March 20th, go. Just be aware that after February 20th, once planets start to enter Pisces, you know, these conjunctions, in the last video, I talked about the fact that we're entering conjunction season. The Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars will be conjuncting Pluto in Aquarius. Then in Pisces, Saturn and Neptune. Then in Aries, the North Node in Chiron. Then in Taurus, Jupiter and Uranus. So this conversation with all these parts of the chart are now going to take on it's going to be, you know, for the next few months, it's almost as if whatever it is that you're building, then you start to see results. But as the planets move into Pisces, I'm saying this again because repetition is, I find repetition helpful in these kinds of videos. The tone will become more serious and kind of a little bit more stressed, needing balance, finding that the Pisces part of the chart needs attention after February the 20th. So look towards February the 22nd as kind of trying to get something buttoned down. Since last July, so that then you can really be in execution mode. Growing the seeds and watering and nurturing them and being excited about where things are going that you've been doing in January and February, and saying, all right, Pisces part of the chart, I'm rolling up my sleeves. What do you need? Let's manage this. Let's start managing you. And let's start paying attention to these conversations that Saturn is going to have. I think the conjunctions with Saturn are actually going to feel heavier than these conjunctions with Pluto. They will require our action and our attention and a sense of, if I don't do this, things will really get messy. With Pluto, it's a question of taking action to inaugurate a transformation in the Aquarius part of the chart. Planets Aquarius, Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, conjuncting Pluto, squaring Jupiter, squaring Uranus in Taurus, both Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, trining the South Node in Libra, and then Mars and Venus conjuncting on February the 22nd. Those are the primary aspects being made by the transiting planets through Aquarius. So far, we've only had the Sun and Pluto in there. And the only aspect that has occurred is January 26th, the day after the full moon, the Sun squaring Jupiter. Now, from February the 5th to March the 9th, all these planets are going to make all these transits. For the rest of the week, we've got Mercury conjuncting Pluto on February the 5th, the Sun trining the South Node on February the 7th, the Sun squaring Uranus on February the 8th, February the 9th, the new moon, February the 10th, Mercury squaring Jupiter. It's, you know, and then February the 14th, Mars will conjunct Pluto. This is where I'm just like, do I really give you all these days? Because it's just going to be like 3 or 4 planets and all their conjunctions and this square. If you are interested, you can always Google them. Take a look at the Astrology King website, astrologyking.com. I don't, you know, he lists dates for, or whoever runs that site lists dates for particular transits that are coming up. So that could be something to take a look at as well if you want specific dates. All right. I really felt the need to do this video, and I'm so glad that I've been able to get it out today, because I want us to now the Capricorn part of the chart will continue to grow based on the momentum that we've got set up. The Aquarius parts of our chart needs urgent action to allow us to expand in the Taurus part of our chart, to release what needs to be released in the Libra part of the chart so we can lean into the Aries part of the chart, to take advantage of the Venus-Mars conjunction. Granted, it happens every couple of years, but still, take advantage of it. As it heads towards February the 22nd, it's certainly been part of an important narrative since July 2023. To inaugurate, hopefully intentionally, the transformation in the Aquarius part of the chart over the next 19 years. To understand that the new moon occurs just after the Sun and the Moon trine Uranus, and the Sun has made all its transits, all its aspects, forgive me, from Aquarius to Taurus and Libra and conjuncting Pluto. The Aquarius month starts on February the 9th, and then the new moon in Pisces, the new moon really is, the Pisces new moon is March the 10th. The energies in Aquarius are present from January 20th to March the 22nd. The month, the moon cycle is February the 9th to March the 10th. Plant those seeds. Take those actions in the Aquarius part of the chart to get ready. You are likely already in communication about them, with Mercury being so close to Pluto. Take it easy this week. Wrap things up related to whatever actions you started around January 10th. And wrapping things up doesn't mean, it could mean that you take meeting, it could mean that you continue to send emails, but continue to wrap things. Do whatever you feel you need to so that those things can have the chance to kind of bloom and blossom again after February the 9th. You might find that there are certain things that you're waiting on in the Aquarius part of the chart that don't quite get going until after the February the 9th. February 9th to the 22nd, February the 9th to the 25th, the Virgo full moon is expansive. That Virgo full moon is really going to give us a sense of seriousness, because that Virgo full moon on February the 25th is opposing Saturn. You've got Mercury, the Sun, and Saturn next to each other, and the moon in Virgo. Mercury, the Sun, and Saturn in Pisces, opposing the moon in Virgo. So, as I've said, till February 22nd, try to be expansive and take the actions you need to in the Aquarius part of the chart. Allow yourself to continue to take appropriate action in the Capricorn part of the chart. Build on whatever you've been doing since January the 10th. Give 2024 its intentionality so that it can be off to a great start. Because as you head past February the 20th, you will then need to start to manage the apple cart in a different way. It's not just about putting the apples in the apple cart and putting it out and shoving it into the marketplace. Then you've got to deal with being in the marketplace. All right. If you found this video useful, you're welcome to please do tell friends, other people who you think might find this content useful so that they know about it, can watch it. Like, comment on my videos if you want to do it. It gives the video greater circulation. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on top. There'll be a wiggly bell icon. Click on that and you'll be notified when I do new videos. If you're interested in information about personal readings, my email address is in the description box below. You can use that to inquire about rates and other information. And I will leave it at that. Onward.